We also have Oscar nominated dramatic films, live action, that are out. And Amy, please start us. What are your favorites in this category?
I will. I mean, this category this year definitely has a theme even stronger than most years. Everything in here is very well-meaning and very much capital letters in your imagination, about the way we live today. Like each film in here, to be honest, even at their best, feels a little bit like a vitamin pill. There's nothing in here with like, I would say, like kind of lightness or a diversity of mood. But that said, a few of these are pretty solid. The one that really pops out of the list is a film called White Eye. And what that's about is it's almost like a continuous shot film, where there's just like a single camera following around this one man who's in a neighborhood in Tel Aviv, where he sees his bicycle that was stolen a few weeks ago, like chained up on the fence or chained up on a pole. And so he decides, how am I going to get my bicycle back? And he goes through the route of the police, and he goes through the route of talking to the people in the neighborhood, and he goes through the route of, can I get some just like bolt cutters and take care of this right here? And it's a movie where you go from the indignity that this man feels like, come on, do the right thing, get your bike back. What's the right thing to do here? To realizing that what matters to this man can have repercussions that affect a lot of other lives. And it becomes very heavy. It becomes a film about like thinking you're making a good moral choice and then realizing that the world is really complicated. So I think because of that, this film is, to me, the chewiest, the one that isn't the most like, here's the statement on the world that will make you cry. So kudos to White Eye.
White Eye is written and directed by Tomer Shushan, and the film is part of the package of the live action shorts that are airing together in wide release at theaters. Angie, what were your favorite films in this field?
I concur with Amy. White Eye was my favorite as well. And I also think, I agree with her. All of these this year are big message movies. And sometimes they were very heavy handed and didn't work that well. Sometimes they worked a little bit better. This one I liked because I think more than the others, it knew what it was trying to say and who it was trying to say it to, and was more willing to take in the complication and nuance of the situation that these characters are living in. It's a film that is, among other things, about the way that the protagonist's intentions don't necessarily equate to what impact he has on other people's lives, because he starts out, you know, just wanting to get his bike back. It's a totally understandable thing for him to want. But then the way that he goes about doing this just ripples outwards in ways that he didn't intend, and ultimately doesn't end up being able to control. And I feel like, if nothing else, it's a reminder to think about how your actions impact others.
You also like the Palestinian film The Present?
Yeah, so the present is about a man and his young daughter who set out in the West Bank to buy an anniversary present for his wife. But he has to go through a number of checkpoints on the way there and back, and each time he is faced with new challenges and new indignities. And I think that what it does well is it shows you how these little things just keep adding up, and how it quickly becomes unbearable. Because at first, you might just be like, okay, he's going through a checkpoint. It's something he does every day, so it sucks, but he'll get through it. But then you see over the course of the day how each one just saps a little bit more of his energy, saps a little bit more of his spirit, and just ends up grinding him down into the ground.
The Present is directed by Farah Nabulsi, who co wrote it with Hind Shofani. The Present is unrated, and that's available on Netflix, also available on Google Play, and again, part of the wide release of all of the live action shorts that are Oscar nominated showing together. Also in this category, Feeling Through, which is written and directed by Doug Rowland. This a drama that's unrated. This one that didn't connect so much with you, Amy?
Not so much. It felt incredibly calculated. And I feel evil. It's the kind of movie that makes me feel evil for even saying that it felt incredibly calculated, and it did not move me at all. But the story here is about a young homeless teen who has a lot of his own problems in his life. Like he has things he needs to figure out. He needs a lot of help. And yet he meets somebody on the street, a blind and deaf man who needs more help than he does. And yes, it's incredibly touching, and the young man has good frustration, but it just feels like, oh, nanobot 2000, how am I going to create an Oscar nominated short? Ta-da, here it is.
That's Feeling Through, we're talking about, which is streaming on YouTube, also in theaters as part of the short live action package. The Letter Room stars Oscar Isaac. Elvira Lind is the writer director. Angie, what'd you think of The Letter Room?
It's like all the other films, really. It's a well intentioned film that I don't think quite gets at what it's trying to do. So, Oscar Isaac plays a corrections officer who gets a job reading all the incoming mail to prison. And through that, he becomes way too invested in this one guy's private life in particular. And I don't quite understand what it wants me to do with this. Like, I feel like it thinks that it's sweet and kind of touching, but I don't think it's sweet and touching enough to balance out how strange and messed up it is that this man is reading this other man's mail and getting all involved in stuff that's not his business. So, I mean, it's Oscar Isaac, so it's well acted, but I couldn't really figure out like what are we doing here? What am I supposed to take away from this?
The Letter Room is unrated, and in addition to its wide theatrical release, it's streaming on Topic, Amazon Prime Video, and on Vimeo's on-demand platform. And finally, the fifth film in this category of Oscar-nominated live-action films, Two Distant Strangers, starring Joe Vaughn, Virginia Scott, and Andrew Howard. Trayvon Free and Martin Desmond Rowe are the directors. And Amy, just real briefly, what'd you think of Two Distant Strangers?
Yeah, it is. It is. We've had a bazillion types of Groundhog Day films come out, and this is one about a young man leaving the apartment of a girl that he's just had a romantic one-night stand with. A young man who I think is really charming, really great. And as he leaves, he is assaulted and attacked and murdered by a cop. And every day he wakes up trying to leave the house over and over and over again. Interesting idea, kind of weak premise, but it has a few dark turns that made it worthwhile. But again, I was just like, okay, I don't know if this really fits together, congeals as much as you think it does.
We've had a number of that sort of Groundhog's Day concept for films so far this year. Two Distant Strangers is on Netflix starting 1 week from now, and wide release as well, part of the Oscar-nominated short live-action films. For our Film Week critics, I'm Larry Mantle. Thank you for joining us. This week's critics, Angie Hahn, Charles Solomon, and Amy Nicholson. Have a wonderful weekend. We hope to see you in your own home for our streaming 19th Annual Film Week Academy Awards preview. You can RSVP kpcc.org/in-person.